What's going on, boys and girls? This is SPITLOGIC, and today I'm going to do an album review.
We make ends meet the best way we can. Learned it from our elders who taught us work with our hands.
So the album I'm going to review today is by an artist named Jorai. The album is called Bluecollar Superstar. So when I talk about albums, I use 5 different metrics to determine how good or how bad an album is. Those 5 metrics are the beats, the lyrics, the quality, the overarching theme of the album, and then standouts. What is it about that album that makes it unique or makes it a must-have? Let's start off with the beats. I think the beats are pretty good in that regard. They kind of remind me of a 90s-esque J Dilla, Ninth Wonder kind of selection of sounds and sound beds that they use in the album. I do enjoy that kind of jazzy, rhythmic sound bed of music. It's probably one of my favorite kinds of music to listen to. The only drawback to these kind of beats is that some people are very reliant on the samples to create the sound bed as opposed to using the samples as a part of enhancing the sound bed. Now, in this particular album, they use a lot of the J Dilla style beats, but it carries off pretty well, and it's a very good complement to the way that the artist rhymes over the beats. Let's talk about the lyrics in this album.
And rappers claiming king is getting me bored, like they don't know even the king got about the Lord. You mad cause you ain't the one who got the award?
The lyrics are very unique, very original, and have a candid honesty that you don't hear from a lot of artists. I can say that the first song that I heard on this album was Honestly, and that was because when I download a new song, I really just put it on shuffle. This song is about overweight. It's about making poor choices when you eat, understanding those poor choices, and acknowledging that sometimes you have an eating disorder and you use food as a mechanism to cope with everyday stresses. I was a little blown away and a little surprised that this artist, who is in a culture that relies on alphas, relies on people who are in control, people who against all odds can overcome, had such a candid honesty about something that is so intricate in our lives, but not something you really want to rap about in your lyrics. Aside from his mastery of the rhythm, aside from his use of the multis, the lyrics across this album have a candidness about it which you're not going to see in any mainstream rappers and not even in a lot of underground rappers. He's still talented enough to be metaphorically diverse, but at the same time, it hits very close to home because those lyrics deal with everyday life. Let's talk about quality.
Welcome to the sanctuary. For me, this is hollow ground.
So the quality on this album is pretty good. Being that he's an underground artist, you're not going to expect the crispiest, cleanest production for this particular album. Doing what he did with what he had, I think that it comes off pretty well. I do have a few issues with some of the mastering choices. I think there are some cases and some songs where the bass is a little overwhelming and the lyrics are not as forward into the songs of the album that I would like them to be. I'm a lyric man. I'm the person that likes to look forward to the delivery of the artist. I like to read the lyrics sometimes of an artist, and when the lyrics are a little overshadowed by the production and the beats, it's a little disappointing. That being said, I know that a lot of people like to master their music nowadays to be played on smartphones or on earbuds. Me personally, I like to listen to the majority of my music either on my headphones or in my vehicle. Call me old school, but that's how I like to listen to my music. So in some cases, the mastering kind of betrays itself because those of us who like to bump music in our vehicles, we hear the mastering that is catered to a smaller demographic, or should I say smaller devices. Now we're going to talk about the theme.
Open your heart to love, and there's nothing you can't conquer. Those are
words to my son when I finally become a father. Pass on the knowledge that's passed on through me.
The overall theme is exactly what the title of the album says. Blue collar superstar. Blue collar worker. Blue collar as in someone who works with their hands. Someone who probably works day to day. Someone who doesn't have a lot of financial stress on them, but still just enough stress to where they have to continue working every day. Someone who may be planning for the future of themselves, who may be planning for their children's future, who avoids a lot of financial risk with the fear that that may bring their financial world collapsing. I feel like this is really common among the American population, but not common enough in the music that we express. A lot of times we like to express people being dirt poor or filthy rich. There's no middle class or no middle ground that we can find as far as music is concerned. This is what this album does. It talks about him, his life, his family, his wife, and the day-to-day struggle that he goes through. It's not to the point of desperation, but you do get a sense that what he does on a daily basis is important. And to maintain what he has on a daily basis requires discipline and requires the faith that what you're doing is the right thing. A lot of cases you have individuals who like to glamorize their ghetto lifestyle and move to drugs as a last resort. In this case, it's not even a resort, and it's a very positive album.
Get at it.
So what stands out about this album? What is it about this album that is unique to really any other album that exists today? I can tell you that, number one, there is no explicit content on this album. So many times I listen to rap music, so many times I download hip hop, and at some point the artist is saying a cuss word or saying something explicit. It's very frustrating, me being the person that I am, to not be able to listen to music as freely as I would like to just because of some of that content. It's not to say anything against an artist who has skill. It's not to say anything against a talented lyricist. But in my opinion and in my eyes, true talent comes from someone who is not able to freely express themselves, but is able to use restraint and use discipline in order to still get their message across. And that's exactly what this album does. I remember we were listening to the album in the car, me and my family, and my wife was just listening, and she says, this is a really wholesome album. This is a really family-oriented guy. And I think that's what this is. It's very rare to find a real artist, to find a positive artist that knows how to keep it completely 100% clean. Now, there is a song with a guest appearance where the individual's probably saying some curse words, but all those words are deleted out. They're washed out. And then there's, of course, maybe one or two instances where he uses the N-word, but he uses it in the context of explaining not using that word. So it's a very positive album, and I'm willing to bet that this is probably the only non-explicit quality album that I'm going to listen to this year. So, how does this album measure up? When we talk about systems and when we talk about the different categories that we use in order to determine how good an album is, I like to use a scale to rate each one. So for me, I like to use a decimal system. For beats, I'm going to give it a 0.75. For lyrics, I'm going to give it a 1. For quality, I'm going to go with a 0.7. For the theme, I'm going to go with a 0.85. And for standout, I'm going to go with a 0.95. That brings a composite score of 4.25. So if you have a chance, download the album, listen to it, and support the artist. this may be one of the best albums of 2017. So far, it is going to be my number one album to listen to. Well, that's all I've got. I'll see you next time. Peace out.